Bruce. Welcome everybody, Happy New Year. This is the workshop agenda of the Mayor and Aldermen for January the 6th, 2015 for the January 8th, 2015 regular meeting. We'll get started. We got a full, everybody's here. The prayer is going to be by Vice Mayor Green, and I'll take the Pledge of Allegiance. Going over into business, look over your minutes for December the 2nd, 2014 regular meeting, and December the 4th, 2014 regular meeting. Old business, second reading, ordinance 2014-25, an ordinance to amend Title 1, Chapter 1, Section 1-103 of the Laverne Municipal Code regarding time change for the citizens forum conducted during the regular meeting monthly workshop. It's a second reading. I think we discussed it last time. Anybody got any questions about the workshop?
Yes, sir.
Okay, the next to be extended agenda. Again, all items under this agenda is deemed to be non-controversial and routine in nature by the governing body. They will be approved by one motion of the governing body. The items on the consent agenda will be not discussed at the meeting, but we'll discuss it tonight. Okay, it's A, approved recommendation for city bids and purchases. Excuse me. Number 1, bid fireworks for Independence Day celebration. Is that you, Parks, or Felicia?
Good evening. We did a bid for the 4th of July fireworks. We gave them a price and told us, tell us what you can do. That's normally how we do our bids for our fireworks. Pyro Shows has always done a really good show, but they were the only one that returned their bid. And as you can see, I think I attached the shell count. If you want to see actual color pictures, I've got those here, but I knew it wasn't going to show up. I'm recommending that we go with them, but I know that further down you've got a discussion item of actually when to have this. So I'm going to need to know Thursday night. I'm going to have to let them know Friday what day it's decided, because as of right now they're bidding it as the 4th of July. So that'll be something we'll need to, when the discussion's decided, I'll need to know.
Do you know what, did you check to see what day 4th of July comes on this year?
Saturday.
Saturday?
Mm-hmm. It's on a Saturday. The holiday for the employees will be on Friday because it falls on Saturday. Bruce and I had a discussion, and AC, we're trying to make sure when Smyrna's going to have theirs, so that we don't have it on the same day.
Okay.
I spoke to Mike Moss, and he said he wasn't sure yet. They're either going to do it on the 2nd or the 3rd, he thought. But I told him if we ended up having to make a decision before him, that I'd call and let him know so that we could, if we wanted to, keep it on separate days. And he said he appreciated that. He thought that was a good idea. So but whatever, we're good. Parks Department is good. Whatever we all want to do, it's fine.
Okay.
Anybody has this discussion about the fireworks?
Is it a 3-year contract? I know it says it.
It's got the option for the 2 years at the same price, yes. Of course, we kind of talked to them because this last year they wanted to go up, and I told them, I said, well, if you go up, we have to rebid it because it's got to stay the $13,000 for 3 years, or we don't. It's null and void, and we will go back to a bid.
They do a good job. They've always done a good job.
Yes, they have. They have always done a good job.
I don't think you realize how good a job they do until you go with somebody else.
Right, or until you see somebody else's.
Yeah, they're good.
So everybody's fine with it? Number 2, bids on uniforms, equipment, and trophies for ball league.
Okay. On this, I'm recommending Southern Trophy for the trophies because they were the only ones that returned a bid, but they also returned a sample. In my bid, I actually requested samples for the uniforms, but they actually went a step further and returned samples of their trophies. They were nice trophies and a very reasonable price trophies, I thought. So I'm suggesting we go with them on that. The uniforms and equipment, Play It Again Sports was the only ones that returned or sent us any samples of uniforms. So we're suggesting that we go with them for the uniforms. They're going to be a little higher quality uniforms than they're used to, so they should be happy. Yeah. And then we're going to ask that we go with them on all the equipment that they did respond with, because the price structure and everything, we'd like to make sure we keep everything as low cost as we can, but the quality as good as we can. And then I'm going to have to rebid the concession because I only got one response, and that was just on soft drinks. So
Okay.
any questions?
Nobody's got nothing for you.
That's okay.
All right, moving on to number B, approval
you.
proposal for Griggs and Maloney for the engineer service at the East Shreibman Extension Roundabout to Davis Way. That's that unfinished section that's down by the roundabout.
Yes, sir, that's right. A few months ago, we finished that 18-inch water line and went through there. And when we got the right-of-way, and again, I point out the city engineer got that right-of-way for free for the city, so he saved the city quite a few dollars. We got enough right-of-way to anticipate this roadway, and we got enough right-of-way not for just the 18-inch water line, but the roadway also. So all the road right-of-ways in hand. When we laid out the 18-inch water line, we did it in such a way that it would not interfere with this road. So it'll go, there's nothing standing in the way of doing this. While we were doing the construction of the 18-inch right-of-way, a great many citizens would stop and ask, are we building a road? Because the citizens in that area want it desperately, and we had to say, no, we're just doing a water line, hopefully the road sometime in the future. So now we're ready to go with this. This road will consist of 2 lanes, concrete curb and gutter on each side, sidewalks on each side to tie into the existing sidewalks that are out there. I took the liberty of sending a copy of our contract to the city attorney so he could check it for form and content. He didn't call and chew me out, so I hope that means it's okay. Thank you. So if we're ready to go, if the board's ready to go, it's completely in your hands. Any questions?
Well,
There's 2 budgets that I've included in the packet. There was an original budget that had construction phase services, $83,000. And then at the end of that item, there was an amended budget. The cost is the same, but it's split between construction phase services and resident inspection. So that's basically if we inspect the road with our city personnel instead of going through Griggs and Maloney to pay for that.
Yes, the contract's laid out so you can have your daily inspector, or we'll provide ours. Be your choice.
When they scheduled to start it this spring?
What we suggest is this: we'd like to go ahead and get the design started. The heart and the long life of any road is in the base. Most people think it's the asphalt on top. That's just a wearing surface. The strength and the long life comes from the base. And we need to install that base this summer when we can control the moisture. You don't want it to be too dry, you don't want it to be too wet. But if it's in the summertime and it's too wet, you can dry it out. If it's summertime and it's too dry, you can sprinkle it. So you can control it in the summertime, you can't control it in the wintertime. So we need to install the base, the storm drains, and pour all the concrete this summer. We've been coordinating with the city engineer. You also have another contract scheduled to to rework the intersection down here by Kentucky Fried Chicken. And we don't want to pour more traffic into that intersection until it's ready. So we thought together we can work the timing so we can get the base and all the concrete poured. If the intersection is not ready, we just simply won't pave it, because you can pave that in about a week. And then after that intersection's ready to receive the additional traffic, we can pave it and go into service.
Any more questions? Excuse me. Moving on to C, approve change order number 3, final for small diameter water line project.
Mayor, this is basically the final change order on this project. It's that small diameter project that the board approved. I believe it was last year's when we bid this out. Pretty much this will balance out all the quantities and get everything to where we can close this project out. The original bid was 2.5 million, roughly, low over that. With this change order, the final contract's going to be $2,100,265.15. So it's a deduction. The project came in under what the bid price was. Like I said, this is mainly just to balance out all the quantities and get us to where we can close this project out.
Any questions? Moving on to number D, approve change order number 2 for the fire station. Number 3, building improvements.
That's what you called me today for.
You building a new fire hall?
Yeah, brand new. Brand new. This is actually, it's for the truck that Dennis gave me at Christmas, so you didn't get to see that. Mayor and Alderman, during the time that we were doing that 9-foot addition on Station 3, we ended up, the sewer line, which had not been, we had no way of knowing where it was at. It ended up being in the middle of the footers for the addition on the building. So they ended up having to move that sewer line during the construction of the building out. It's now exterior of the building instead of interior, so if we ever have any problems with it again, everything is on the outside of the building instead of in the middle of a footer. So that change order on that was $6,000. And again, I got with Phyllis a little earlier. I didn't have time to get you the whole worksheet here, but this project that was being done, including the sprinklers and all of the stuff that come through codes and all after the fact, this change order, along with the sprinkler and all, is going to be a change order at the end of the fiscal budget year that'll be coming out of a line item for equipment maintenance and upkeep. That's $250,000 line item there. We're currently at $146,525. So adding the sprinkler, the Station 2 door that we talked about last month, and doing this change order on the sewer line itself will bring that line item to $230,525. So that's still $20,000 under budget. So it's money that is in budget. It's just in a different line item. Any questions?
So what does that mean?
Well, that means I need $6,000 to move this sewer line that's already been moved.
Okay.
And we have the money in the budget.
Yeah, the money is in the budget, though. Yeah. Pass the hat.
Any questions?
And that project is 99.9% complete at this point. They did finally get the plumbing vent in today. So it's very, very close for us to being able to go back into the building. In fact, we're putting the trucks in the building due to the cold weather, but they've got one more coat of finish to put on the floor, and that project out at Station 3 should be done completely at that point. It's really, really close now. So if anybody wants to stop by and take a look at what was done and how it was done, we're going to try to have an open house once it's completely done so that everybody can see what all the hoopla was about the building addition. So.
What time y'all eat lunch over there?
So whatever time you want us to do it. It's better to come at dinner at a fire station. No, I'll just dinner's a whole lot better than lunch. So we might set it up for a dinner time visit.
Any more questions?
Thank you.
Moving on to E, approve application for library E-rate grant for fiscal year 2015-2016.
Lynn's going to speak to this.
Thank you, Mayor and Alderman. This is the same federal grant that we apply for every year. It's a discount on telephone and internet service for the library, and it's generally runs between 40 and 60% discount. It's based on the demographics of the county, depending on the free school lunch, I believe, how many children are in that program. So it'll be 40 to 60%. So we're just putting it for your approval.
Any questions on these? Moving to number F, approve agreement and engineering service for CTI Engineering Incorporated for engineering services to replace a Cedar Ridge pump sewer station.
Good afternoon. This would replace the Cedar Ridge sewage pump station, which is about 20 years old. It's been giving the city a hard time with repairs. There are some leaks in the wet well, and this engineering agreement would simply replace the existing Smith & Lovelace sewage pump station with an identical Smith & Lovelace sewage pump station.
Where's the money coming out of to fix this water and sewer? I mean,
We budgeted for the Cedar Ridge pump, sewage pump in the 14-15 capital plan. Out of the capital, it's not the capital plan that we have the bond for, but general capital plan.
What's the estimated project cost to replace that?
$300,000.
This is part of the bond money.
It's in the bond issue.
It's the next one that's, the Johnny Glenn James, it's the next one that's not.
so the money for this is coming out of the bond money? Okay.
Other than the age of that unit, it's worked fine for the last 20 years, other than the fact that it's 20 years old now.
It's just worn out.
Gotcha.
You know, over the last 6 or 8 years, we've replaced several of your pumping stations because they've just reached the end of their life.
Any further questions on item F? Moving on to number G, approve agreement for engineering services from CDI Engineering Incorporated for engineering service to replace the Glenn and James sewer pump station.
This one's a little different because it's 2 grinder pump stations that were actually slated for replacement about 2.5 years ago, and you all paid us to do the design for that replacement. Then it was decided to not replace them, to bypass them. Since then, it's been discovered that 1 can be bypassed, but 2 do need to be replaced. So our fee in this one is really just minor revisions to the design that we've already done, and then bidding and construction phase services.
Any questions?
And it's the reasoning is the same. These are just worn out.
You know how old that one was?
Those are only about 10 years old, but they've really had a hard service life.
What's the typical lifespan of those?
Yeah. 20 years is very good. I would say normally 10 to 15.
Most of them pump stations, they same brand or different companies make them, or?
The Glenn and James pump stations are the same brand. Those are 2 grinder pump stations, they can be the same brand. The Cedar Ridge pump station is made by Smith and Loveless.
Yeah.
Of course, when we bid it, there'll be other manufacturers allowed to bid it.
Yeah. Any more questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to new business. It's a motion to appoint or remove board members. It's A, Board of Zoning Appeals. There's one term vacant. Since Bob, he moved over to Planning Commission. His seat's available. B, Local Emergency Planning Committee. There's one term vacant. C, Beer Board, 2 terms expires 12/31/14. D, Greenway Advisory Committee, 1 term expires 12/31/14. Historic Preservation Advisory Committee, 1 term expires 12/31/14. Laverne Housing Authority, 1 term expires 11/30/14. Library Board, 2 terms expires 12/31/14. And Local Emergency Planning Committee, 6 terms expires 12/31/14. Park and Rec Advisory Committee, 1 term expires 12/31/14. Senior Citizens Advisory Committee, 2 terms expires 12/31/14. Stormwater Appeals Advisory Board, 1 term expires 12/31/14. So look over the applications, and Bruce, just send them out. And the Historic Preservation Committee, we're going to have on March, I think the 2nd Saturday in March, we're going to have the celebration of Laverne at the Civic Auditorium. I think that's where we got that scandal at, AC. I believe that's what we talked about, wasn't it, AC?
I think so.
The 2nd
Yep.
Saturday in March.
Saturday.
Moving on, number 7, first reading ordinance 2015-01. An ordinance to amend Title 20, Chapter 2, Section 20-208 of the Laverne Municipal Code regarding park and rec user fees.
I know we've discussed user fees a lot here recently, but what we're trying to do is tweak it and get it just right and be fair to everybody. Well, basically what this is going to say is that if you use our facilities for 2 or more tournaments per year, you get to retain your gate fees. When standard is the city will get the gate fees, but if you're going to book, like for instance, BPA comes and we got a relationship with them. We've had over the past few years, they go way back, and they usually book 2 huge state tournaments with us. And if they get 2 tournaments on the books, if it's available, then we'll let them retain the gate fees on that, because they're booking 2 with us, then we're getting concessions off of that, and also the user fees as well. So it's just a way to kind of even it out and make it, give them an incentive to come back. And we may tweak it some more down the road too, but there are some things we don't know about until they actually come up. So, you know, to make it fair, it may take us a year to get it right, but.
Cheaper by the dozen?
Yeah, kind of, yeah. But that's all that is. That's what we wanted to do.
Okay. And we're down to discussion items. Number 8, discuss amend record service ordinance. Who's got that one?
Chief Walker.
Chief? Going to the record business?
No, sir, absolutely not. But Alderman Jones asked me a few weeks ago to take a look at what we had. He had a discussion with me, and then he did a ride along and discussed how things are done now. So I put together a package. I didn't prepare a draft for a reason. You've got a package electronically that contains, I believe it's about 80 pages. You've also got about 80 pages here that contains Laverne's current record service ordinance, and I believe the last update was 08. Bruce, if I'm not mistaken, I think that's the last update that I saw in July of 2008.
That's it.
Was anything that was changed on it? That's my recollection. In 9-20, up in the upper right-hand corner, is the page number on that first section. If you look at it, it goes through, for example, fees, maximum fees that can be charged. This is 2015 now, and a problem with what you get into when you start building everything concerning records is technology changes, you have changes in equipment in and of itself with upgrades, and you've certainly got changes in costs with insurance, with fuel, with manpower to operate, et cetera, et cetera. So I've given you a lot of different things to look at. One of them is Smyrna's towing service standards manual that's done by the police department. The ordinance gives the police department the responsibility, the chief actually the responsibility to develop standards, et cetera. And one of the things you'll find there in that document, as that's a 30-page document, as in the 40-page document on the back, which is my old agency, the most recent one they had in July 2014, is that there are a lot of things you don't need that I would recommend you not do, is put things in hard stone, meaning law. You're going to have some wiggle room in there, because if something hits tomorrow and all of a sudden motor fuel prices hit $5 a gallon, you've got some issues if you've got things like that that are in stone. Times change, other laws change, and in order to change an ordinance, we've got to go through probably about 2.5 months at least, discussion and preparing and getting together and then getting it passed and then codified. And by the time we do that, you're looking at almost 3 months. But I would recommend that you not put everything in an ordinance itself. Be very careful about what goes there. The city of East Ridge currently has some major issues going on. They have an ordinance very similar to Laverne's, and they've got a TBI investigation actually of the way the record rotation was being done, because it violated their city ordinance. So we need to be careful about what we're doing to make sure what we're doing is right, because it can cause problems down the road. I've also got copies, and I didn't provide these to you all. I'll be more than happy to if anyone wants to. I just hated to try to kill any more trees so that you could take it and read it. But I have the City of Knoxville record ordinance, and the majority of everything there is done based upon Knoxville Police Department and their guidelines. I have a copy of Hendersonville's. It was revised in May of 2013. And Hendersonville does basically the same thing. They've added and changed and so on. And the only thing you'll see with a lot of these is the fees are concerning either an inspection fee or something of that nature that pays upfront for going through and doing the inspections and the backgrounds on drivers and owners, et cetera. Because one of the things that came out of several lawsuits 25 years ago involving interstate commerce and, correct me if I'm wrong, Counselor, the right under federal law to conduct commerce and so on. And what happened over a period of time, even back as far as 1954, the courts have ruled that municipalities, yes, have a responsibility to provide public safety and protection for consumers and citizens, et cetera, by ensuring those who do business do it in the right way. So in that light, yes, we can have guidelines for all kinds of businesses. and we do. The problem in the state of Tennessee is there are no laws actually that govern or have specific requirements for record services, towing services as such. Most of it's done by an ordinance that gives the authority to the law enforcement group that's there responsible for getting them pulled out of the middle of the road and so on when there's a wreck, et cetera. And that's where it comes from. Public safety from that standpoint, and in protecting folks too. I have a copy of Chattanooga's. That's been a long storied issue. Nashville's has been, Memphis has been. I have a copy even of a page off of the website, the City of Knoxville, from the Wrecker Services Commission, the Motorist Bill of Rights concerning wreckers and fees and so on, and they refer them right back to KPD for any issues that they have there, because some of those things are ordinance violations. And then I also have a November 2012 Kingsport Police Department that's very, very similar to what Smyrna has and also to THP's manual, except Smyrna and Kingsport kind of pull it back closer based upon what they have going on. The problem that I think we have, one of the greatest problems with our current ordinance, is that we have too much built into it in hard law that are things that could be built into a much more easily changed procedural manual or guidelines manual. The other thing you have built into it, as with East Ridge, is you limit the number that you can have. And you actually show the number of businesses who could apply and actually operate services here. But we limit them to 3. Now, if we have 3 record services here, they have a franchise, record franchise, and that's all we can have by ordinance, and all 3 of those have what I would classify as a Class A wrecker, which is a small boom wrecker with a winch, or a rollback to handle passenger vehicles. If we have a large, medium, or heavy straight truck or a tractor trailer that wrecks, we have nobody that can have a business here that can pull anything like that, because we're limited, we're restricted. We don't have anybody here that has that equipment. So what happens with us when those things occur is, if the company itself doesn't request a specific wrecker service, then we have to start trying to call around saying, hey, who's the closest we got that might be willing to come? And when we do that, we have no control over what they charge the people, no control over what they do, other than the fact that they do it, everything else up front legally and required under any statutory authority that's there. Like clean up the debris from the wreck, state law. Every record service is required to do that. I think there needs to be a tremendous amount of discussion about this, and I told Alderman Jones earlier I didn't bring a proposal because I think we need to give some thought as to how we're going to go about it. We don't need to rush. We're going to need council to take a good look at it. I think everything that I have recommended to you will pass muster legally, because I've read a lot of the case law, I've led a lot of the cases. I was involved many years ago when we began making a lot of changes at THP with, from a district perspective and then from a headquarters perspective, simply because we had a lot of trial and error in trying to get something that everybody could live with. Now, here's the problem. If we put 20 record drivers in this room, something I say during this whole conversation has made at least 1 or 2 of them mad, because they're not all going to agree. It's kind of like Christmas at my house. Not everybody wants to eat the same thing. There are going to be issues, and they'll disagree. But I think we can get something that benefits everybody, yet protects those that we serve, to ensure that they're not overcharged, they're not wronged, their property's not stolen or torn up, et cetera, and that they can have confidence that things are going to be done and done the right way. And it applies to all of them. And that's why we're here. So I'll answer and entertain any questions you may have.
The Metro of Nashville, they got a record board.
They do have a record.
And they got districts, you know.
They have districts.
They got districts, and most all the districts, just take like West Nashville Record Service.
Right.
They got a full service. Most of the Nashville Record Services that's on
They
their
do.
district, they got a full service.
They do.
Full service. The trouble in Laverne is none of the record services up here can afford to invest that kind of money for just Laverne, because there's not that much business in Laverne.
That's true, but if we start saying we're going to shut it down and you can't have an X number, then you got issues with that. Then, in my opinion, you're limiting free enterprise anyway when you do it. I may be wrong.
But
I don't
until
know.
Laverne has a record board, you know, that's. You know,
I don't think there's a need for a record board, though, Mayor. I don't know
probably
why
not
there
in
would
Laverne,
be.
because Laverne is so small.
Well, and you don't need districts in Laverne. We're 25 square miles. We have 177, slightly
talking
over
about
177
big
miles
records,
of streets and
you know,
roads.
big records. That'd have to be probably somebody from outside the city. and
Very
that's where we
well
lose control.
could be, but if we open it up, one of the things you're gonna have to do is restrict them on the charges they can make to that poor soul here, because it may be a Laverne vehicle that's being towed, and if they tow it to their lot, and it's in Murfreesboro, West Nashville, then you've got a whole lot of money being spent to tow it from here to there to store it. So we're gonna have to take a good close look at what we do, because you don't want our folks having to pay somewhere $1,000, $1,500 just for the mileage fee.
Yeah, we could look at maybe like a hazmat, you know, get somebody on contract. If it did have a wreck in Laverne and a big truck, we could have one person we could call. That we could have control over.
Well, hazmat is a totally different issue from the wreckage itself and removing it and when you can remove it. And then the hazmat cleanup. That's totally separate from record service.
I think one of the reasons that I had that discussion, or you have the discussion with you, was, you know, the point of fact that we've got an interstate that runs through the city.
Yes,
and
we do.
we only have, if we only got the smaller vehicles, that's where the problem's going to come in. Now, if we can open discussion and rewrite this ordinance and make it known to, let's just say, and I'm not picking any particular one, the only one I know is A.B. Collier. If we make it known to him, if you want to be on our list, and we call you for a big rig, you can only charge the individual. Well, we don't have any big rigs, and let's just say he picks up a person-owned vehicle here in Laverne. If he decides to take it back to his location, you only charge the $25 of road that you're taking it out of the area. Once you break that plane, don't charge that citizen the extra that it takes you to take it over to Noblesville Road, wherever your company is. And that's some of the discussion that I wanted to have in the open, so we can get that straightened out. But my biggest concern is all the tractor trailers that have been flipping over. And the fact that if one lies across I-24 and we've got to call.
Well, that'd be state that's on I-24.
Yes, the majority of the large wrecks, we work only those that are the smaller wrecks, that are not the serious bodily injury wrecks, that can be handled very quickly. And that's usually when THP says it's going to be 2 hours before we can get a trooper there. And for the safety of the people coming through the city on the interstate, we go ahead and work and get it cleared and traffic moving again.
Okay.
But we don't normally go out there. That would be probably a THP wreck. However, we've had large commercial vehicle crashes here in the city.
Yeah, well, take that example away and let's just say over the bridge or
and
anywhere.
the other thing that I think we could do there is require whomever is on our list to have a facility here that's not someone else's they're renting partially from another service, because you get into issues with that when you do. They start playing against each other then. But if we could require them to have a business here where they can safely store, have a business license in the city of Laverne. Anybody that we call that does business here. And we don't have that provision.
There's a couple of things I want to ask about this. I think our ordinance is for every 10,000, we can have one record. Right
It
now.
is.
And I think if we go to 35,000 and one person, we can have 4 because after you get past there.
Yes,
so we have 2 that are actually right now, right, or that are active on our rotation right now.
Yes, but Painters has asked that they return, and I haven't done anything with it yet because
Okay.
I was asked this question, so we don't know what the standards are going to be.
I guess my only thinking is, and I don't know if you talked about free enterprise, if we are stepping over into that right there by regulating how many you can have. But I do remember not too long ago, maybe 8, 9 years ago, there was a lot of problems because I think there was 5 or 6 record services. So if you just open it up, quite frankly, when your guys leave, they are the next in line. It's a direct reflection back onto the city. So I think if we do rewrite this, we have to rewrite it with some,
Yes.
at least an SOP that we're all very happy with.
Exactly.
And how we want it. The only thing too is one of the services called me today to ask me about what this was about. And they said, you know, problem with it is when they were 4 and 5 and 6 people deep, he said, we starved. You know, we're here, we're willing to give, 24/7. And it may be wrong. I'm just going off of what they said, but
Let me just address that.
Okay.
Because I'm not sure which one that might have been, and I won't call names, but I will tell you this. We've got one that if we had a really good policy in place, they probably wouldn't be on the list now because they historically say, we can't come, we can't come. So technically, we've got, for the most part, one that's doing the majority of our towing now. And that becomes a problem with the weather we're predicted to maybe have tomorrow morning, this weekend, et cetera. When those times happen, you got problems if you've only got one that will respond. And that's, out of those 2, half of those 2, 75% of the time doesn't come. And in most places, if you've got 3 in a row or X number in a certain period of time that you say, I can't come, then you're put off the list. And that's something that I think, if you want to ask me later, I'll be glad to share with you, but that's a problem we got. Our dispatchers pull their hair out sometimes. So, even when there's 3, it was difficult sometimes, and it was still, for the most part, only one that would come the overwhelming majority of the time.
I think if the ordinance is readdressed and is written properly and it puts it in black and white, it doesn't matter how many we have, because the rules will be there to be, to be followed, or you remove them. Because that was one of the main things that drew my attention, is the fact that how can you possibly have someone that's on the city books and they say, no, I don't want to come. That won't work. And there's no, there's nothing that ordinance would have done to, that's basically their right to do.
There are times when they can't come, and that's understood.
That's understood.
But if you have the services there and you're doing your rotation when it comes their time, and you need 2 services at a 4-vehicle crash, so you can clear that road and get it cleaned up, or maybe all 3, then you need all 3 of them, or both 2 services, whatever. And that's one of the things we need to look at.
Has there been any reporting as far as the response times and the availability of the current services?
As far as the amount of time, we have waited sometimes as long as 45 minutes because a record would be out, and that's usually when there's only one that will respond, say we'll be en route, but we got a call, and as soon as I get through that, I'll be there, and then we wind up with an officer or 2 officers or however many, depending on where the crash is, staying out there protecting that scene and the people around it, people driving through it, et cetera, for that period of time until they can get there and clear that roadway and open it back up. And that becomes the public safety issue there.
So broadening the scope of the ordinance instead of having it narrowed down and pigeonholed would be beneficial to the city and the residents.
I think it would. Now, I don't mean, we don't need to go out there and say, oh, okay, we need 15 of you to come in here. No, Laverne's not big enough. But on the other hand, you've got to make it to a level to where people who want to do business here are willing to invest and come and do business here. And that's our problem.
That's one reason Nashville's a record board. One record service in Nashville will cover the distance of Laverne.
Yes. Well, you have the same thing with THP district records. In a county, you may have as many as 5 zones or 4 zones. We used to have the north end of Marion County and the south end of Marion County, and then we had I-24 from about South Pittsburgh east to the Georgia line, and then you had Monteagle. That's all you had. Monteagle was one zone in and of itself in Marion and Grundy counties, because you had to. Back in the day then, you had wrecks every day just about.
I know some record drivers in Murfreesboro, and they say that so many on the Murfreesboro call in, nobody's really making any money. You know, the price of fuel and equipment. There's so many on their rotation.
If it's just the record service, yes. But the majority of the record services I'm aware of, unless they're the specialty, the big A.B. Colliers, West Nashville, et cetera, they have other businesses that they do in addition to. And therein lies part of the problem, too, is the other business as to whether they can get away from it and come and respond quickly and be there when we need them. But that's a hazard of the trade. Many times in the past, it's always been a service station, but we don't have service stations anymore. We have convenience stores. Stop and robs. And that's happened too much recently, too.
I think it's good discussion, and it might be something that needs to be looked at closely, but it's not going to be, like you say, it's not going to be easy.
No, it won't. It won't. And I think we can get a document that most everybody will agree with probably 95% of the time, but I don't think you're ever going to get 100% approval rating on anything you do with these. And that happens even in those counties, not necessarily in a county itself, but like Marion County, we had 3 different groups of folks, and the 3 groups couldn't get along within the areas and zones that they had responsibility for.
A lot of times you'll have 3 or 4 record services on call, and if it's a pretty day, this one on call will take it. But if it's 3 o'clock in the morning and raining, they'll want to push it over.
You're right. Here's the other problem you've got. If you've got a broken down vehicle or you've got a wreck, they're going to make more money generally on a wreck because they're going to have to do some winching and so on and so forth, a lot more than just going out and dropping and picking up a broken down vehicle and taking it somewhere. So they'll turn those down too. Or if you've got one that's abandoned, they don't want to fool with those, because then they're going to have to announce it. They're going to have to notify the Department of Revenue. Once it's been there over 3 days, they're going to have to try to notify the owner, et cetera, et cetera.
If you send one of them things to the state, it might be 6 months before
You're
you
right.
get back.
You're exactly right.
I know it. I've done it. But anyway, any more discussion on the record ordinance?
I'll do anything you all ask me to do. I'll pull together whatever you want me to do. Just the will of the board, whatever you decide. I think you've got a lot of things that you may want to read through and then come back and maybe start a direction fairly soon.
I'd just like to say this one other thing too, Mayor. Barring you creating a board, if that was, something that you were thinking, I think that we should do like our neighboring cities and make the police department the subject matter expert on it, because they would, as you see, he can get this information quickly.
No, I didn't know. Man, back to the example, Metro's got boards.
Right.
But one of their districts, each one of their districts is as big as the city of Laverne.
Or bigger.
Bigger, yeah.
Bigger than the city of Laverne. So does
making
Memphis.
Laverne a district
So
wouldn't be feasible.
So does Memphis, so does Knoxville, and so does Chattanooga because they are so large. But I don't know of any municipalities our size in the state who have boards that do that because it's not big enough yet. That's big business, and you've seen what they've had recently over the taxis anyway in metros. So Metro's not always the best. Any questions?
Not really. Moving on to number 9. Discuss temporary park and ride lot at Veterans Memorial Park.
Evening, Mayor. Evening, Board. My name is Mark Sturdivant. I'm the Chief Development Officer for MTA and the RTA in Nashville. What we want to talk to you tonight about is a temporary park and ride at Veterans Park. We've had a park and ride at the Kroger here in Laverne for a period of time. It's worked really well. We have about 50 cars parked there a day. There's about 3,000 people that ride that route per month. So it's been very successful. It's been well used. We know that traffic's getting worse in the 24 corridor, and we expect that to continue. Our ridership is growing really everywhere that we're working. Kroger has indicated that they want to terminate that agreement with the RTA, and they want to do that on the 31st. We're always very respectful of the people that we work with. If they want to terminate agreement, that's what we do. So what we're looking for now is a temporary location for the park and ride. Mayor, we talked to you about it, and Bruce, and we've looked at some different locations, and we're still working on that. But as I said, the service, our agreement with Kroger is going to end on the 31st. We'd like to continue the service, and we need a temporary location. So we looked at the Veterans Park. That would work really well for us. We've got a signal on the main road there. We can turn either direction off that road. We would propose, and we've got a draft agreement that we've supplied to you. We propose that we start that service on February 1st, and it would run till June 30th, and hopefully we'd be able to find another location, more permanent location. And so we're here to answer any questions for you tonight. We're here asking for a favor. So we'd appreciate you working with us. If we damage the lot in any way, we would repave it or restripe it or anything that you would ask. So.
I know me and Bruce met with y'all a couple of weeks ago, and I know y'all need a place bad. That's y'all the people that comes with the bus from Nashville to Murfreesboro, and y'all make stops along the way.
Right. When I say
MTA bus.
Correct. When I say we have 3,000 people, I can't tell you where they're getting on or where they're getting off or even where they're driving from. They might drive over from Nolensville and park here and get on the bus, but we know it is a popular route. It's well used. So.
But it's about 50 cars.
About 50 cars, yes, sir.
AC, how do you see that affecting y'all?
Well, my only issue with it is 50 cars is a lot of cars. You put them up there in Veterans Memorial parking lot, and you have a ball tournament come in on the weekends, and that's taking up 50 spots of people that are coming in from all over the place. And y'all know they'll park anywhere they want to anyway, so you take 50 spots away from them, they're going to be parked all over the place. It's, you know, I don't know. It just depends, but that's a lot of cars. And I run it by Bruce too. I thought maybe down by the senior center is another spot. It's not as convenient as the Veterans Memorial, but that big lot over there on the end, seniors just use the lot in front of the center for the most part. But there's quite a bit of space over there. And I don't know how convenient that is for y'all, but it would probably work out a whole lot better for us if you could park there instead. Plus, then again, too, you got your 50 vehicles parked up there with kids with bats and, you know, running in and out and stuff. So, you know, that could be an issue too.
Well, we would designate where they would park, and you could determine where that was. We suggested a spot. So, you know, we're going to keep looking, and if that's that suggestion that you made, we'll look at that.
Okay.
The thing that we're up against is we've only got about a month.
Right.
And so, you know, it might be something that if we could enter into an agreement with you, we might start it, and if we can find a better spot, we would, you know, look at moving that. But we're just kind of, as I said, we'd like to continue the service. There's a lot of people that rely on it, and we'd like to, you know, keep the service going and look at this as a temporary temporary location.
What was the time frame you said?
It would be starting February the 1st. It would run through June.
Through June, okay.
Yes, sir. And Gabe's here if you've got any questions on schedules or when we might use it, when the cars would need it.
Is that going to be 7 days a week?
No, sir. My name is Gabriel Burgess. I'm the Regional Transportation Authority Operations Supervisor. It would be Monday through Friday.
Monday through Friday.
And the first car, you would have two distinctive routes, which would be the 86, which is the express going from to Murfreesboro, and then you would have the 96 local, which would also go to Murfreesboro, and the stop-off point would be, at the time was Laverne, Kroger's, and if we did get the spot, it would be your location at the park. And the first car that would come in the mornings on the 86 would be at 5:59, and then that's in the morning, and then your last car leaving out of there, last bus, will be at 5:37. Whereas on the 96, the first bus pulls in at 6:10 in the morning, and then the last bus pulls back out, going back to Nashville at 9:17. So it's just during the day time frame. It's also used as a logistics point for, you have students coming in from Murfreesboro, you know, come into Laverne. It also helps out your economy before they go into Nashville. We have a lot of people stop into the Laverne area, and we had a lot of ridership. And the numbers are growing. Your city is growing as well, and you had a lot more people that are using it. Just talked to a couple people this morning and this afternoon that were, you know, said that they were going to talk to you about helping us out, and they would like to keep the ride going. So that would be the gist of your service, would be 5 days a week, Monday through Friday.
It's going to be mostly week.
Well, that's less of an issue.
Right.
Typically, tournaments start on Friday, so that one day may be an issue,
and
but
again,
if you're not there on Saturday and Sunday.
Right, we're not there on Saturdays and Sundays, and as we said, we could work around the hours. We can adjust the hours on the location if we needed to not pull all the way in or move to a certain spot on those particular days. We're obligated to do that.
Right.
Is there any feedback on what reason Kroger decided to withdraw?
Yes, ma'am. Due to the fact that the ridership has grown, because right now you're at 50 cars, and you have the area that we were occupying, which was when you first drove in, we were in front of the Mexican restaurant behind the Valvoline. Well, the Mexican restaurant said that we were taking up too many of their spaces because we were growing. So then we moved to the other end of the parking lot. And again, that area down there now is growing as well, because now you got the Jet Pizza, and then you got Kroger's as well. So, and wings. Thank you, Chief. So the service has grown, and so now we're taking up more spaces.
I can't see you being able to park at the senior center at all, because that lot is usually pretty much filled.
No, I'm talking about the one over by the road, Sherry, the one that stretches all the way out. That one up toward the field, that's usually nobody's parked in there. Melissa and them park out by there closer to the road, but the one closer back toward the field where the big concrete things are, you know, we can make some adjustments there, but that's, I mean, if you're not using that on, you know, Saturday and Sunday, I think that's going to free up a lot of.
That was my point. I mean, if they're not, because I never see you on the weekends. So
No,
I was
sir, we're
thinking
not.
Just through the weekday.
Right, it's just it's an express service, particularly for the commuters and for the students going to MTSU and coming into Nashville, and also for your commuters that come in from Smyrna, also like Mr. Studevant said, from other areas riding in to Nashville or going to Murfreesboro. And another interesting point Chief asked was it straight buses and articulated. And articulated is a 60-foot bus, which has if you've seen them, they're double wide, which has the accordion in the middle. Those will be our earlier buses for the commuters coming into town, going to to work, which would be your state workers and any workers that work at Vanderbilt. And then during the medium part of the day, you would have regular sized buses, which is a Gillick 40-foot buses.
One issue I had when we talked right now is the wear and tear on the asphalt.
Yeah, we recognize that, and we'd be willing to pave the section that we use when we're finished with it.
Okay.
We'd be glad to put that in writing, in an agreement. So
That's currently not in the agreement I was looking at just now. and
we'd be glad to.
That needs to be added for sure. Originally, they were looking at the City Hall property. And of course, there's many problems with them having it here. The biggest one probably being ingress and egress, to the property. And then when the mayor and I met with RTA, one of the suggestions was the Veterans Park, and while it's not ideal, because of the amount of traffic on the Fridays, they have said that they are willing to work with Parks and Rec as far as trying to move some of that around. So I mean, we're only talking from February to June, the end of June. So, hopefully if that's a short amount of time, it won't affect too much. But, obviously it's a decision that the board would have to make. So, we did, AC and I did talk about the senior property. We've not really talked to RTA about that, because if you look at the location and the 2-lane road at Stones River and all that, that's not really the best location to be, and there's a lot of traffic on Stones River. So, to me that's a concern. But
plus that big bus coming down.
yeah, you got a 40 and 60-foot bus going through there. That's not ideal.
And that would be the only logical. The other question I would get, AC, first of all, when does that season start?
We're looking at the end of March.
Okay. So, and the other question to you would be, do y'all have any markers on the, for the people, for the park and rides? Do y'all have any markers for them? So if the 50 spots were dedicated to them, then we could make sure that they're not parking everywhere else?
Yes, sir. We would identify that. With your permission, we would place signs and or banners in that area restricting those passengers, and we were, if approved by the board and your council, we would send out in a press release and a picture of where exactly the commuters can park and not exceed that zone. And we'll also have supervisors which will monitor the area.
And Kathy, the red spot is what the suggestion, or is the red spot what y'all discussed? Is that
yes,
it?
That's the area
yes,
we're
sir.
looking at.
The red, yes, sir. The red location is the area that we were identifying to use just for our for those passengers.
I mean, just for the size of the bus alone, that's logical for them to. That Stones River Road would never. That wouldn't work.
Well, actually, the park would be a better location than the senior, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Stones River is very busy.
Yeah.
I mean, that road.
For that size bus. I mean, it's rough enough.
Mm-hmm.
Just pulling out for those side roads.
Well, and there's several school zones on that
Yeah.
road
True, you
too.
got school zones there too.
Yeah. And at one time, not that I'm trying to change the flow of traffic, but they're going to be opening that other little piece headed back up that lane, coming out, that was dedicated. Okay, and that's all I had.
Any other questions?
Anybody got any questions? This is the prime time to ask them.
If the board is okay, I'll put this on the agenda for Thursday night as a motion, and a decision can be made at that time.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Discussion number 10, date of Independence Day celebration.
We kind of touched on this earlier during the agenda item. Obviously, the 4th this year is on the Saturday. City offices are closed on the 3rd. And I know there was some discussion yesterday about whether we should have the event on the Friday or Saturday, the 3rd or the 4th. Typically, Smyrna has their event on the 3rd, but as we discussed earlier, they've not said it yet. But we do need to make a decision, as far as when we want to have that event. I know that we don't really want to compete with Smyrna. I think that would hurt attendance at both events. And plus, we kind of wanted to have our own event and kind of have it on the 4th. I know that's why it was originally set up. Tom can speak to that better than I can. But AC and I decided just to bring this to the board for a discussion, just to get y'all's thoughts on what you would like to do, what night you would like to have it, and then we would plan accordingly.
And Dennis, when you and I talked about it, I didn't even realize that we were off on that Friday. But, I mean, to us, it's not an issue either way. I spoke with Mike Moss yesterday, and he, you know, we agreed that we wanted to try to have them on separate days so that both communities could enjoy, you know, a fireworks show. But I told him if we decided before he did, that I would let him know when that was. Now, there's no guarantee that they're not going to try to do it on the same day that we do it, but the vibe I got from him was that we'll try to work together and not, you know, step on each other's toes.
Well, we got a better show, so everybody be down there anyway.
That's what everybody says. So whatever day y'all want to do it is fine with us. It's not an issue for Parks and Rec.
I think we go ahead and decide Thursday, pick the day, and then at least Smyrna will know.
Right.
You know, if we keep going back and forth, we won't never make a
And he
decision.
may call me before that and say, you know, that they've decided on a day. So either way, I mean, we'll be okay. We'll just, you know, we'll know if they decide to do it on the 3rd like they have in the past, then, you know, we'll just go with the 4th if that's fine with everybody. So it doesn't matter to us. We're good either way.
I'm going to throw this out there. When we talked about this 4 years ago, we put it in, we wanted Laverne to have its own unique date. We did not want it to be on top of Smyrna's. We were new. We didn't know how well it'd go over. And I agree, our show has been equally as good or better. The fun thing is, number one, certainly Laverne's residents get to stay here and have their own celebration. But now I'm also hearing a lot of people from Smyrna and Murfreesboro and Antioch, for that matter, coming to Laverne, which, you know, hasn't always been that way in the past. So I'd like to see it stay on a unique date, but it really doesn't matter. If the board's wishes are to move it another day, it's always been the 4th. So.
Plus, we're going to do the same things we've been doing in the past. I mean, we've typically had a band and face painting and open concessions and things like that for the kids. So it's more of like a carnival atmosphere kind of thing. It's not just fireworks and you go home. It's, you know, entertainment all the way up to that point. So, you know, it's a pretty big deal for us. And we can do that on any day. It doesn't matter.
And quite honestly, with it being on a Saturday, you may have the most people ever, just because people are off work and so on. And if they're traveling, they're leaving Friday anyway. So I would imagine.
Well, we can think about it and decide Thursday.
Okay.
Discussion number 11, strategic planning retreat.
Of course, every January we typically have our strategic planning retreat, and if we want to do it again in the month of January, really the only days that we have available are the 22nd and 23rd. I've also put in the packet kind of just a very rough draft schedule of the times we could do it. I know with the new board members, there may be some issues with working during the day and whatnot, so that's why I wanted to bring it up as a discussion item to see what you guys wanted to do. You know, typically we've done it on a 2-day period during the day. As you can see on the schedule, it usually starts around 9:30 in the morning. The first day usually ends around 5, and then the second day we start around 10 and go basically all day, and then we have a reception with the employees that evening. So it really just boils down to what the board is available to do. I know, like I said, a couple of you work during the day, so I don't know how your schedules will work out, but that's why I wanted to bring it up for discussion.
Any day is good to me because I don't work, so I'm available anytime.
So that's one vote there.
I don't care either.
You don't work either, do you?
What are you thinking, Calvin?
I work.
Right, me too.
But with
I mean,
this,
we
with this
can
much
make
notice,
them-
any day is fine.
We can make them during the evenings. We'll probably just have to spread it out over 3 days instead of 2, just because of the time factor. But
No, with this kind of notice, it's fine with me.
I'm fortunate to have an employer that is flexible, but at the same time, I don't want to abuse that flexibility. I don't want that to come to an end, because I think it would hurt the city and it would hurt me. So, I mean, if we could maybe make it one day and then a couple of evenings instead of me missing 2 days of work, that would be helpful. Anything that you can do in that regard would be beneficial.
Okay, we'll have to look at it, because I'm not sure right now. Obviously, we can do it like the 22nd, 23rd, and maybe 24th, have a whole day on the Saturday, something like that. Of course, the only issue there is you're getting into employees' time off, but, you know, that's something we can work around as well. But so we'll discuss it, and I'll send it out there for some opinions, and we'll try to accommodate.
You know, if we're stepping on employees' time off, we could have it. You know, we've never had it like that. We could have it on the evenings if we didn't step on some of the boards meeting, you know. Then
We used to have it on a Friday and Saturday, and I know it wasn't real popular with.
you know, most everybody kind of grunted on Saturdays.
Well, I mean, maybe if the employees were given a floating holiday instead of that day that they gave up, they might be more receptive to it.
They could flex it out, yeah. Okay, we'll see what we come
I'm
up
good with whatever.
Okay.
I guess everybody on the discussion, number 12, discussion, motion to approve letters of engagement with Bradley, Agritt, and Bolt Cummins LLP, whatever that is.
This is the letter of engagement we talked about earlier with Tom Trent regarding the tax increment and financing. Basically, this is just kind of the starting point for doing that project, and hopefully getting some good results where we can do that development.
Kevin, that's almost like your business had a name that's about a mile long.
I know it. That's what lawyers do.
I'm all for going ahead with this, at least looking at the TIF and whether we should maybe go ahead with that and help the Brownings or keep the Browning partnership here with us. To me, I think they spelled it out pretty good numbers-wise, and I agree with what you said, Calvin, as far as let's look at Dixon and let's look at Cookeville and some of the other cities where they've had the TIF. But I think the numbers kind of speak for itself. I'd like to see that development come here. And if you just look at their numbers, they're talking just in the first year alone, $400,000 in tax revenue, not property tax, so on. What I'd like to see us look at it with the TIF is we already have budgeted $430,000. There may be some additional funds that can be made available either through stormwater and or some of their impact fees. I'd like to see the TIF be at the smallest, and if we did this quickest, it'd be paid off. I think it'd be more beneficiary to the city. So those are my thoughts.
And again, the reason for my request on that is I'm more of a visual person, and I wanted to see it and just how it worked. But he basically took away my argument with the fact that he's going to pick up the lawyer's fee. Right. So I'll shut up. If they're paying for it, I have no problem. Anytime somebody else can pay a lawyer, that's good with me. So I withdraw my argument on that. No offense, Evan.
Well, let's clarify that. He pays for the attorney if the deal falls through.
Right.
If it's continued, it is paid for essentially
but it goes
by
through
the city,
TIF.
but it's inside the TIF.
Right. I understood that.
I don't see how we could possibly lose in this scenario, except for to not proceed.
We gotta have TJ Maxx. They're cheap. They're great.
But I think we get them to pin down their numbers with Kyle's numbers and the city's numbers, because right now they have bounced around. So I think what we need to do is see exactly, and they said it would, the thing is, they've told us when we went to, we met with them in Vegas, we said the same thing. we kind of the same thing about being visual. We said, show us what you're talking. Don't just say this is what you want. And again, some of their numbers don't match up right now with our numbers. So I want to see the exact number, what they're saying. Time is of the essence because, again, these businesses will jump elsewhere.
Yeah.
So,
and that was my biggest concern in the overall conversation. Until we pull him in and they can give us some,
hard, fast
you know,
numbers.
paper on ink prices, he can sit up there and say numbers all day, and I'd have to see some real numbers. So, and getting him in here, and also with his knowledge of the situation, you know, talking to county, possibly even dropping the money down north. I think that would be, like you say, a win-win.
Vern's ready for more retail. So, seems like a simple decision to me.
There's no doubt, you know, Vergne's in competition with everybody else around Smyrna and all of us, and we're going to be aggressive and compete with them. And, you know, sometimes we have to look outside the box, you know. We got to work hard to get them in, and this might be one of the avenues we need to look at. No more questions. This has been the last discussion. We're down to Mayor and Alderman comments. Tom?
I'm good, sir.
Melissa?
I want to wish everybody a happy new year, and I hope that you accomplish all your goals that you set for yourself. And if not in this year, keep trucking towards them.
I'd say the same. Happy New Year to everyone.
Jerry?
I would say the same, and thank you to Calvin for sharing the little baby and the cake with me. So I'm going to be lucky this year.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to let her elaborate on that. It was a king cake, everybody. I cut the cake and the baby cake. Yeah, that was the
He
cake.
cut the cake. I was wanting the baby so bad, so he gave it to me. So I'm supposed to be lucky all year long.
And I was supposed to remind you, don't forget about the little dog toys.
Okay, I'll remember that.
Just glad everybody made it through the new year. Only thing happened to me, I broke one of my toes. Other than that, I made it pretty good. Stayed at home on New Year's, so I did, Chief, I didn't even see none of your roadblocks. I stayed at home on the couch. Mark. And Saturday will be, I think it's the 12th, the rescue squad's having a ham breakfast. I think it used to start at 5, but I think it starts from 6 to 10. Everybody needs to come out and support the rescue squad. Last time they had some really good ham. So everybody come out, and if anybody got nothing else, I'll call this adjourned and see you here Thursday.